Welcome everyone to another video. As usual here from our open source Linux distribution development that mostly just raw but working, patch to work, mostly raw except for patch to work, freaking work Linux. And I made another change, and so this is regularly shell scripting because it is just one of the most easy to understand and versatile administrative language here. We're scripting all our package build. We're currently epic thread ripping through that. And I made another small change. So basically this is for everyone, even if you write in C, God forbid, C, C++, Rust and stuff, D, Go, Swift, Zig. Keep an open mind. Certainly the other saying, the cliche of you never finish learning, always learn something, especially in IT, certainly. It's never like stop, play with your first Apple or Commodore C64, Commander X16. There's always something new, and this today, two are like one's extremely low tech, and it's like keep an open mind and rethink stuff, right? I do this also with our commercial scanner software, for example. I mentioned before even secret source, right? Some new stuff, especially so the universal version is written in Lua. I disclosed that before, and we even tried some new scanner drivers also written in Lua because we just like in contrast to C++ and Objective-C. So obviously I'm not writing all our applications in shell scripting. It's just what you currently mostly see here. So this applies to everything I want to say, and I made a totally small change that is a huge quality of life improvement. And so like this kind of change I would probably not have done 15 years ago. Maybe even if someone, maybe it is not impossible. I obviously can't remember every patch from 20 years ago when I was stable release maintainer at Rock Linux, the predecessor of T2, of which we forked off 20 years ago. And so what I talk about is a super simple thing. So usually the make files, there are certain naming conventions of make AR equals and stuff and prefix and so on. And of course there's not a standard, right? There are some conventions of GNU and BSD. And what we do here, many other Linux distributions, they just hardcode all of this stuff, right? If you look into deb packages, RPM or aports and stuff, lots of stuff is hardcoded. And in T2 we try to have mostly like as least code packages as possible. So we have lots of, sure, Gentoo, EPEL and others have some defaults. And so usually we had here a prefix, so super small thing, right? I did this yesterday, but there are some surprises also. Where's even doing have here BSD? And so I was aware of this. So a lot of makefiles use prefix, and like 20 years later, I now edit prefix in all caps, and so this stuff here is new. So why did I do this, right? So as this is a common occurrence of the 80-20% rule, which I usually dramatize to 90-10%. 80% of the packages use prefix in lowercase, and like 20% or so prefix in capital. And so historically in T2 it were like hundreds packages. So what this means is like 90% or 80% of the packages would just build, except some BSD derived in friends and family. And there we of course had this as code, right? So our famous codeless packages. Also we have some new packages. Where do we have? So I committed this yesterday. So remove, would this be more previously? So let's see how many this is versus revisions. That's 8, right? But this also broke things, all right? So my point is reevaluate your, why does this not blend argument? Not, fuck, it's non-breaking fast typing, it's like pro tip type slower. So previously some packages, how many verses even? Get some numbers. So what this distills down to is like maybe 208 deletions. I said 80-20% rule, right? And the reason I did this, I implemented this AI-like bot, not only updating packages so since 6 months or 6+ months, AI bot updating our packages, because that is certainly time no human should spend on maintaining package metadata. But also recently I scripted and stolen hundreds, soon thousand packages of other Linux distributions, right? We had 4,000, like until recently all our packages were like our own metadata, which again, mostly this kind of metadata, right? Not too much like this stuff, like so much stuff to steal. By the way, why do we have this bloody comment? Maybe we could get rid of that. And so recently I've stolen some packages from Alpine Linux, because why not? Like writing some shell script and AI stuff, because there's only so much you can nightly update. And so it turns out, like, of course, not converting all the hard-coded code, because I'm not a fan of hard-coded e-builds and a-ports and stuff code. I prefer my packages as codeless as possible. And while at that, right, so probably some 100 packages did even cross-compile. So I started with stealing packages cross-compiling, and then, of course, native compiling. And of course, lots of packages I noticed, like going over the thousands of build errors, I noticed a pattern, of course. Lots of stuff installing in user local. And then I thought, low-hanging, I looked into the first, which might be like 2BWM stuff, of yet another window manager, obviously, right? So the one piece of the puzzle missing for desktop Linux 2022. And obviously I noticed, like, wait a second, they use this prefix, right? And so I made hundreds of packages just compile by adding prefix here. And this is re-evaluating, right? 15 years ago or 20 years ago, I would have said, no, this is not like standard conforming. We keep our core stuff like raw, or like as minimalist as possible. But 15 years later, I have to say, nah. After that, of course, it convolutes the build a little bit of having prefix lowercase and uppercase. But like, if this improves packages, or it like the 20% improvements of human interaction with updates and creating new packages, right? It's worth it. However, when I did this, I mean, I'm close before release of the best T2 Linux release ever, with the most packages, most cross-compiling, XFC desktop, and from ARM to Alpha to Super H or stuff. And of course I was thinking, yeah, let's hope it doesn't break something like, and so the other thing is, the only constant is change and tiniest improvements of making the last 20% easier. But you will not believe how many packages this broke, right? It easily broke 5 packages. It's not much, but that's also the crazy stuff. So a lot of the stuff I of course removed with SED, right? Recurring theme here. Yesterday after work I was sitting here, not live streaming everything, but obviously some SED magic of matching that. Also the other revision, right? Some SED magic and some manual cleanups. Obviously, because not everything's super easily SED matched. Actually not that many. Yeah, so 208, and it's kind of worth it. So it broke, of all things, it broke IP root 2. And new packages, right? If you had one reason, if your favorite package was not in T2 yet, then now, by the way, I wonder, DRM info, is this some halfway decent? Okay, it's named like this, okay, fine. Amazing. Also 2022 coming through, and we finally have DRM info stolen from a-ports. So it broke IP root 2, and was it even set standard? Also exceptionally updated to release candidate. Usually I don't update to release candidates, but this Ruby version has new JIT stuff, so it's significantly faster. So T2, living the dream, and at the bleeding edge. Latest and greatest stuff. Somewhere here, fixed, hot fixed. Where freaking is that? More previously needed. Did I not commit that? Which packet of, or maybe I didn't commit this yet. So IP root 2, because some of these packages, darn, so much growing stuff here. Because some, believe it or not, some packages really, it was also eject. Eject of. I wonder a little bit if this is in the meantime in util Linux or stuff. Is that? Okay, this is in the meantime in here, so I wonder slightly if we actually should use that version, to be honest. Actually, that is if package. Actually, we have this already optional. You know what? I guess I modify, because we only, you might wonder, why do we have this tool? I guess previously it was not in util Linux. We only need this, fun fact, we only need that for the installer for Macintoshes, for computers without eject button, because otherwise you can't eject the bloody optical floptical for installing that. I guess we can last minute change. Nothing like another last minute change, not like breaking your precious. One of the best Linux distributions the industry relies upon last minute before release. So yeah, this changes, and so eject. I can show you that. So this is, why do I show you that? This is another demonstration. So what we do here is we need to explicitly remove this prefix here again. Because in only one, and that's the crazy stuff, right? Why should this break something? It only breaks something if they use such a variable name for other means in their Makefile. And that's of course a really silly thing, and a prime example of the only constant is change, which I usually criticize, but 15 years later, a little bit quality of life improvement here. And so, and also of stupidity, right? I really find it stupid to use such a variable name when usually you use prefix, right? So you use the GNU stuff of GNU AutoTools stuff. So you use prefix due to that probably here. So you use a variable named prefix, and then you use otherwise a variable named all caps prefix in only the translated Makefile stuff here. And this is how this breaks, right? And this is like so stupid, which is the only reason I wanted to mention it here. I can't make this stuff up, right? Sure, it is a tiny little old, probably abandoned, bit rotten, unimportant utility someone wrote in the basement. Also, how many? So probably also prime example of, this is one name. It's like, yes, this package has way more autoconf surrounding build nonsense than bloody C code. Also 27 line of 28,000 lines of C code for bloody eject. I would just open the device and send someone system call, but what do I know? Anyway, so yeah, this is so stupid. Like, how can someone like use such? Also, I mean, this is wrong. Why do actually they? This is so silly. It's not even the right prefix. This only works like, or does it? Or actually, wait a second. Maybe they. Okay, maybe it works with the right prefix. Oh no, but this is not an. How is this not a freaking autoconf substituted? I have no words. This is silly. So I have to wonder whether this actually probably does not install this to the right location if you configure with. Anyway, but yeah, I mean, have they stolen this Makefile from another package that they, from some BSD package? I have no words. It's so like yeah. For the 200 code deletions, it is for 2 packages. I remove prefix. Like, yeah, eject and IP root 2. Maybe there was other stuff. I thought there were like 5. So yeah, so it broke eject and IP root 2. Maybe another thing or 2, which I misremember. At least my cleanup broke set standard, so that would make 3, but that is my personal cleanup. That removed too much, but anyway, crazy stuff. Also, so this is like rethinking. It is the tiniest thing, right? But an example of keeping it stupid minimal a decade later. okay, let's maybe not keep it that stupid minimal and make our life way easier, especially for automatically sourcing packages from the interwebs with scripts and AI and stuff. Another thing I found, and that was not super crazy stuff, in this stolen package heist, previous videos was BW whatever, window manager, 2B, did I say 2BWM? I think I even got this wrong. Another fast floating, the last window manager missing for your desktop Linux needs. And that used a non-standard, it used like, we have an install wrapper to automatically transform installation file names at times. Again, making our life easier of not hard coding and patching stuff. And it is crazy that, I mean, it's super trivial shellcode. Maybe 15 years later we also should do this better. But this broke, like that's the crazy stuff, right? For over 4,000, for nearly 5,000 packages, this install like shell script argument parsing of, it's not as precise. And only yesterday I noticed, actually, wait a second, this kind of argument parsing is actually not honoring all those combined short options correctly, right? If you dash S whatever and then dash G. So this stuff here, I think this two, actually we can check that. 2BWM. My machine is busy thread ripping through Firefox. For nearly 5,000 packages, this worked, and then comes 2BWM of all. This was too early. How can my machine be so busy? And so this is the only package in 5,000 packages that is using. Oh darn! I should just use image. So that our own shell script, like how do you call it? Our poor man's shell script parser thing broke in interesting ways. And I wonder if we should maybe look into. Oh darn. Maybe we should look into making this install wrapper like more modern in some way better. So this is, come on, so what is it? It runs install with PM. So what's happening here? So for you write, I mean, probably Claire's written that. I guess from my memory, it's probably not that I've written that. I only say this because I started to say you write, like not you, man. Claire's written. Claire's written this amazing wrapper, and like 20 years later, you still find bugs or implementation marginalities. Like calling it like professionals like AMD and Intel, we're not calling it bugs, we call it implementation marginalities, or how Steve Jobs would say it, you're scripting, you're using that wrong. And so this -PM didn't pass, right? So this resulted in somehow, I think, using this as a name. So the install wrapper was rewriting this in this terms of translations because it didn't handle this combined short options. If you get what I mean. So I added this here. This took me like also like unfortunately 30 minutes of my lifetime to figure, like, this is not perfect, but it works well enough. So the split combined arcsing here is new since yesterday. So what I do here is I split because I initially didn't get this right with numbers. Maybe I committed that even. So what my initial implementation is, that's even actually a relatively tricky regular expression, maybe not even 100% correct. So my initial regular expression, so I would internally rewrite this to parse this arguments, which is also what I do in our uname wrapper with SED, which works quite well, I guess. But 2022 we still reinvent argument parsing in shell. initially I substituted like any short combined stuff, which would work, but rebuilding everything, usually I tell people like, hey, why, like GMP or other stuff breaks, so we'll build. And I tell people like, hey, why are you not rebuilding the world with your new stuff like GMP or GNU-org of all things, also segment like 2022, right? GNU-org segmentation faults or GMP breaks the GCC build. Like why, like putting my own money and mouse where, putting my own mouse where my money is, my money where my own mouse is. I rebuilt the T2 world for release, and of course this broke. So my initial attempt of rewriting this worked for this, but turns out other packages used that, and so my initial poor man's regular expression would have substituted that for that. So now I do not substitute numbers, which is hopefully is like, yeah, but probably needs to, so that this would be substituted to that. Like, yeah, I only tell you that for that level of attention detail, and like the only constant is change and regressions. Even if you think, hey, it's like some regular expressions like do. Obviously, even when I do some poor man's regular expression, it's like one rebuild later and do that shit is broken. So yeah, tiny little bit improvements all over the place that continue to make T2 better Linux distribution. And with all the 800 or so stolen packages, previous videos, I did not commit all, I only committed the compiling stuff, and even from the compiling stuff I didn't commit all yet. There is so much random stuff in between that is crazy. But I was even wondering, should I commit this stuff? So now we have over 5,000 packages, which is hopefully amazing. I'm not entirely sure. I only committed this. I nearly didn't commit them because was it not DRM info? What is the bloody? Was it DRM info? Maybe. Because it's just so much random stuff that I don't need. And the problem is manually going through this. I deleted some. Oh, interesting. That's actually pretty interesting. So that is certainly one of the better packages. I wonder that it runs so long, but so this is certainly one of the better packages that I probably could move that over. So the better packages I will move from Contrib to some other repository, just not in this case, not entirely sure. So previously this would have been like Xorg or so. Maybe it's still reasonable to move this to Xorg. I don't know. Well, strictly speaking, not really Xorg. It's actually pretty useful, to be honest, and maybe it even helps me to diagnose. I have the issue that my display sometimes is black and doesn't like prolonged idle periods. Maybe not. I think that is pretty decent and useful, to be honest. So this DRM info, I mean, not that you would need it daily, but certainly debug tool, one of those Unix like Linux debugging, CIL debugging tool, exactly this kind of stuff that makes Unix or Linux systems amazing, much more amazing than Windows, where you can't as easily look into stuff. But yeah, I nearly didn't commit all those stolen packages from aports just because it's so much random nonsense that I don't need. The only reason I committed is because then I thought, basically coming back full circle to this 80-20% of, sure, 80% of the packages use lowercase stuff of more modern GNU inherited, although not GNU is not Unix, but other modern people. But the last 10 or 20%, like if it then causes 80%, like you package something, you need to add this prefix, right? You steal something from other Linux versions, it doesn't build, you need to manipulate that, right? And these minutes add up, right? 1 minute there, 1 minute there. At the end of the year, you spend hours on these tiny little things. And that is similar. Initially, I thought this 5,000 more packages. I could, like, they have like 9,000 packages, so it's like 5,000 more packages it were, or something like that sort. And I mostly scrolled through that previous videos, right? Set, and set RAM init tools and whatnot and stuff, and games and window managers. But then I thought, okay, I spent hours scripting, stealing this package metadata, and if I need packages, in the meantime, I even added some packages like without stealing them, like lib camera or stuff. And then later I noticed, like even live on this channel, like recreated lib camera or stuff. And as you see, usually it takes 5 or 10 minutes to package something. You copy and paste all the stuff, you copy some template and so on. Fine. It might be 5,000 packages of random nonsense, but there are hidden gems in between that I would not find for years. And then I would still need to package it like libdrm info and other stuff. So this is why I just like, okay, I deleted, I scrolled through it. Sure, I saw games, I saw this and that. I deleted the most useless stuff for me. I commented out not to commit some other stuff. But at the end of the day, I committed the cross-compiling and native compiling stuff because it simply saves ourselves time, right? This is time we can spend on making other stuff better, on optimizing, on doing some real work, testing, writing a microkernel, doing actual product reviews here and stuff, and so on and so on. So this is the reason I spend 2 or 3 hours on scripting and refining and sorting and stuff. And instead of wasting that, sure, I made the YouTube video about the making fun YouTube video. But yeah, better have some metadata. And if we find it's completely random craziness, we can still delete it. And I will also move, so like, yeah, it's not important. So if you are a T2 maintainer, like we have some in the audience, then if some of the stuff is useful and the next time you improve something or so on, then we move it over from Contrib to another repository. Like basically Contrib is the collection of previous Puppy Linux dump and now like Bitrotten and at that time, like already at Rock Linux time, submitted crazy random nonsense that nearly nobody ever needs, plus then Puppy Linux dump and now Aports conversion dump. So like basically Contrib is like the dump of attic of random stuff that may or may not be useful. And again, as long as it saves people's time, like you and me and stuff, better to have it than not. And of course it looks nice and better if we have 5,000 packages. So let's quickly, so we need to rebuild. I would say the only valid reason previously to have eject was previously we linked some core stuff with diet-libc. And so now we have this in YouTube, but we're not doing this, right? We linked previously some core stuff with diet-libc for a smaller init.rd, but in the meantime, we need so much complex stuff there. Think LVM2, think crypto tools and crypto setup and stuff. That's like, yeah, this 1 megabyte or 2 megabyte of glibc is like, yeah, YOLO, whatever. And also diet-libc constantly too broken, especially for non-mainstream architectures, and barely updated. So yeah. So mind this, let's remove that forward test, and then oops, the only constant is change in testing regressions. 2212 that you have Linux rules for Christmas under your Christmas tree of eject. Let's see if we had built that already. No, we didn't. Okay. Anyway, so apparently we did not yet have that build, maybe. Oh wait, this was the wrong build ID. And then let's rebuild util Linux. And then I anyway had to retest the stuff, unfortunately. Let's rebuild this hopefully with eject. And yeah, defense comments, but also just wanted to share this kind of stuff. And this is basically coding style. I'm totally aware this is a tiny little variable name like upper lowercase. But yeah, sometimes I changed even the naming, right? The T2 naming is another example here. The T2 command line tool naming is, I probably was a contributing factor. I don't remember that clearly was Claire and me back in the day. But I remember that I remember there probably was a discussion 20 years ago with the short naming and stuff. And I think my argument, at least as far as I remember 20 years later, was like the short names suck. You can barely remember this, like except like -c for config and stuff. But I also made probably a poll on my Moorman channel some time ago, but I would still say that short argument names for the most part suck, like think DD and what, like who remembers what dash J and whatever BL whatsoever. I would probably still say the only short variable names are valid, useful ones are dash F for force, dash V for verbose. Although it's all dash V verbose or version, like dash capital and lowercase v, there it starts, right? And so probably my argument back in the day was short arguments mostly suck, and for long arguments it sucks to constantly type double dashes, and that is probably, I'm not sure how much I was a contributing factor, because back in the day at Rocket Linux we had easily 20, 30 developers and stuff. At least I remember that probably was my argument. But 20 years later, I have to say, it probably was not the best decision, because between the standard of short and long names and crazy stuff like DD, like why is this DD argument name like equal stuff, like nearly no other Unix command, like what joke was that? But between all the other command, like 20 years later, why I would still stand with my argument that it's probably still mostly useful. It is a little bit annoying to use it between all the Unix tools, because it obviously very few other tools have such naming. I would also argue this equals sign. I also still wonder, maybe this equal sign, which also some other tools, also probably do all the GNU tools use that for long options? I would also argue this equal stuff is also annoying. And if I would with my microkernel, so I will not going to change the T2 tool. I'm aware that this is slightly non-standard and a little bit at times annoying and stuff. I also added dash F and dash V probably into the mix a little bit. Maybe this would still be one of the saner things of not treating single digit. I only say this as last thing with the previous install wrapper and command line parsing stuff there. Maybe this kind of mix would still be the best thing of not having everything duplicated except dash F and dash V or stuff. And maybe also not use equal signs, because I don't know, like is like you would have, do you really want to type dash dash missing, and like why not just this, and why not this? And I mean this combined short form stuff of SFVM 775, or even like this, like seriously, do you really want to argue that this is amazing? But yeah, there is no standard for that. I had probably some kind of poll previously. It is what it is. We are contributing. I'm aware we're contributing. But I only say this with rethinking, right? We probably make a new tool, like a new front end, over the next years. It's not the highest priority because I have a microkernel to finally write. Share, like, and subscribe, Moorman channel, Patreon, GoFundMe and stuff. But for my microkernel, which I will probably implement user space tools new, because certainly not using the C stuff or so of GNU and BSD. But so the problem is there. Do you want to make it POSIX compliant? Then you need to support all those old-fashioned argument parsing nonsense, or try something more modern and stuff. That is. But the problem is also always, if you try something like refined and modern, then it's incompatible with everything else, and then nobody's going to use it because it's annoying for everyone, because it's non-standard and stuff, and relearning, and then nobody's going to use it because relearning of non-standard, new standard stuff. So the recurring, they have a 14 sucking standards, and then you make the 15 sucking standard. Anyway, so we will make a new front end that will use maybe something named T2. We have an open GitHub issue for that, and I will not change this old scripts here because they are in use, and not like there is no point. They exist for 20 years and we have documentation. But maybe we make a new thing of T2 install or stuff, or build target. I don't know what yet. I have some thoughts in some GitHub issue. And then instead of changing this old stuff will maybe in 10 years go away. Not super fast. We have better things to do. But eventually there will be like a new T2 install Luajit, right? I'm not yet like 100% what exactly, and this will use some more modern like package, and again we need to think that through. Not the highest priority. We have a microkernel to write. I hope you enjoyed this, but again, the usual one last change and regressions, and also what, and even that, right? Even this edition, super no-brainer. You would think no-brainer. Of course, I knew will cause regressions, and of course cause regressions in major packages. That's it for this video. But also, like the usual win-win. Not only I summarized that for you in 35 minutes, but also a little bit win-win of me realizing, hey, wait a second, we use this eject. Was there not something in util-linux? Should we not maybe use that instead? Could cause regressions, but it's like one exotic package less that probably wasn't updated in decades. You can actually check that. I will not delete it. Maybe it still has sometimes a use for something. Can keep some. Oh, there's also FTP. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's probably vintage Abundanware of, do we even know, 2005. No further questions. That's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed this and learned something. Don't forget to share, subscribe, Patreon, GitHub sponsorship, or GoFundMe. And amazing builds to come with, oh wait a second, why does it say Linux 6.1.1? One more win-win off. Did I have to type? Apparently I had to typo in here. Oops. Let's quickly rebuild that before I have a wrong one last win-win of noticing. That comes from manually pre-editing. It's like, yeah, I pre-tested MapleTree, multi-generational, last recently used, previous moment channel video, and all I get from that is the one time you test release candidates, you manual clobber a final release version number typo in there. Darn it. Anyway, thanks for watching. Have a good day or night. Merry Christmas and holidays, and see you next time for all the Christmas fun to come.